Hello guys, this is your friend DarkVerse. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto's training journey turned into a harem with Mikoto, Yugito, Tayuya, Hana, Yugo, Mei, Fu and Anko Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Arigato Mei-chan, but I want you to promise me something. Naruto held her by her shoulders as he depolarized his visor so she could see his eyes. What is it? Mei asked, slightly nervous since she had never seen Naruto this serious before. Promise me that when the battle starts, you will stay as far away as possible from Yugura and I as we battle. Do not interfere no matter how bad the situation looks. Do I make myself clear? Naruto squeezed her shoulders slightly as he said this. Mei was silent as she thought about it. I promise, as long as you promise me one thing. Mei looked him straight in the eyes as she talked. Promise me that you will make it out of the battle safely and that you will return to me. Naruto's eyes softened as he heard her plea. He drew her into an awkward hug since he was still in his armor. I promise I will make it out alive, Mei-chan. 5 days later. Day of battle. Naruto stood at the far end of the open plain in his armor, the black cloak flapping slightly as a small gust of wind blew through the area. Apparently this was part of the plan as well. He was to make sure the army stopped in the opportune spot where the maximum amount of casualties will be inflicted by the exploding tags. With the small amount of rebels that actually use earth element techniques, the tunnels had taken them 2 whole days to excavate with small breaks for meals. On the 3rd day, the tunnels were lined expertly with exploding tags, but these weren't normal tags. Naruto had used his rather impressive knowledge regarding fuinjutsu to maximize their blast potential, making sure to take out more enemies with the blast radius. Spreading out his force awareness, he could feel Mei's presence in the dense jungle foliage towards the east of the open plain. Naruto knew the enemy won't be able to sense them since he had placed some chakra suppressor tags around the ambush area to make the rebels' chakra signature nearly unreadable. Let's see where the advancing army is, Naruto thought as he pushed his force awareness further out across the open plain. Just as he was about to reach his maximum range he felt it. A large group of force presences moving in sync towards him. Yugura was the one in front as his force presence had a double layer to it. Naruto found out that all Jinchurikis would have a double layer feel in the force to him, the inner presence being the Biju while the outer presence is the host. After a few more minutes, Naruto saw the approaching army with his own eyes and saw the look of surprise and confusion on many faces due to his presence. He waited until they were in the best position before he held out a hand to signal that they stop in their tracks. Yugura lifted an eyebrow but decided to humor him and gestured for the army to stop. Greetings, stranger, and who might you be? Yugura asked as he tried to sense the threat level of the black-clad person in front of him. My name? Well, you may call me Darth Revan. Naruto's voice had that metallic quality whenever he spoke through his helmet. Very well, Revan-san, would you mind explaining why you are here as well as why you told us to stop? Yugura narrowed his eyes at Naruto. I am here because my presence is needed here, Naruto answered in a cryptic fashion. As for why I told you to stop, I wish to give you a chance to stop this foolishness and live in harmony with the bloodline clans. Yugura was dumbfounded. This strange individual appeared out of nowhere and suddenly demanded that he stand down and live peacefully with the bloodline clans. The thought of it was so outrageous he couldn't help but laugh out loud. The rest of the army, seeing their leader laugh, decided to join in. You expect me to suddenly allow those scums back into our village when we have been at war for the past year? You must either be stupid or totally insane. Yugura spat after he stopped laughing. Is that your final decision? Naruto asked for confirmation. Of course it is. Now get out of our way before I crush you. Then may Shinigami-sama have mercy on your souls, Naruto replied without emotion as he found a single handseal causing Yugura to take a battle stance. I feel like I should say some really witty one-liner before this, something like, art is a bang. Or something along that line, but I don't really give a damn so. Katsu. The majority of the army felt the ground rumble and give way underneath their feet before they were consumed by a gigantic explosion of fire and earth. At this moment, the rebels burst out of their hiding places and jumped in to engage the surviving members of the army, which was around one-third the original. You planned this. You're another bloodline using scum, aren't you? A slightly singed but otherwise fine Yugura pointed accusingly at Naruto. What if I am? All you need to know is that I am your death. With that said, Naruto launched himself at Yugura with a right kick to his head. He was intercepted by Yugura's right hand. Yugura pushed the leg away and jumped back a few steps while running through multiple hand seals. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon projectile technique. He shouted as a giant dragon of water materialized out of thin air and released a mighty roar. He has the same mastery over his water element as the Nadaime. No, it must be the side effect of having the Sanbi trapped inside him, Naruto thought absently as the water dragon lunged at him. He formed a grabbing motion with his hands, causing the water dragon to halt in mid-flight. Yugura felt his eyes widen when he saw the armored ninja gesture some more and send the water dragon right back at him. How did he do that? Is he a member of the Ryusui clan? No, even they can't wrest control of water jutsus from an expert water user such as myself. Also, I didn't sense any chakra usage when he did that. Yugura thought after he had jumped out of the way of his own technique. He ran through several more hand seals and took a deep breath. Suiryuden. Teppadama. Water release. Gunshot. He spat out 3 consecutive balls of water, each with the diameter of a full-grown adult. Naruto merely stared on in boredom as he raised both his hands in a stopping motion, and the balls immediately paused in midair and dropped back onto the floor as puddles. What the hell are you doing to my techniques? Yugura roared in frustration as he launched several more water bullets at Naruto, who just disposed of them in the same fashion. Bloodline. Naruto offered, simply causing Yugura to ground his teeth in anger before snapping his fingers, and 3 clones emerged from the puddles of water on the ground. They rushed Naruto and engaged in a furious taijutsu battle that looked more like a blurring of limbs and bodies to any spectators. The clones were attacking in coordination with the original Yugura. When Naruto dodged one fist, then there would be another attack coming from his blind spot. It was only thanks to the years of practice in honing his force senses that Naruto was able to dodge and successfully counter each and every strike. Why can't I hit you? Yugura shouted in anger as he leapt backward after Naruto had disposed of his water clones. Is this all you have? Don't tell me you made Kage with these pathetic skills. Naruto taunted, causing Yugura's face to turn red from rage. Don't belittle me. He ran through some hand seals. Suiryuden. Baku Sushoha. Water release. Bursting water collision waves. Yugura spat out a torrent of water that covered the area around them. Naruto watched as the young Kage sped through more hand seals. Suiryuden. Tsunami o Okada no Jutsu. Water release. Raging tidal waves technique. Naruto whistled in approval as the water in the area gathered into several giant waves that were heading to his position. He quickly placed his hands together and started drawing on the force into his palms. The force quickly became visible as a swirling, distorted ball of energy within his hands. Naruto pulled back and thrust out his hands with palms opened. Chikara no Taiho. Force cannon. He shouted as a huge wave of force energy launched out from his palms and impacted into the oncoming tidal waves. The result was a spectacular explosion of water that rained back onto the ground. Naruto grinned at the slight look of fear in Yugura's eyes before it disappeared once he had reined in his emotions. Looks like I have finally found a worthy opponent, Yugura mused as he ran through more hand seals. More jutsus. Haven't you learned your lesson? Naruto mocked him but didn't like the smirk on the young Kage's face. Oh, I did. Raiden. Kaminari Ransu. Lightning release. Thunder lance. Yugura's smirk increased as he heard the armored figure cry out in pain as the jutsu hit him. the technique was meant to pierce, but it looked like the armor blocked it. Son of a bitch. I didn't know he could use lightning techniques. Naruto panted. Though the armor stopped it from piercing him, it also acted as a conductor and shocked his entire body. You shouldn't have gotten Naru-kun. Your force awareness would have normally sensed that attack coming, but you allowed your confidence to get the better of you. Kyuubi chastised him from within the seal. I know, Q-chan. Naruto sighed mentally. Okay, no more fooling around with this guy, time to get serious. Mei had heard Naruto's cry of pain and turned to see his smoking form crouched in the water. She almost ran to help him but bit her lip when she remembered what she had promised. She took one last look at Naruto's rising form before turning around and leaping back into the battle. She would place her trust in him once more. Guess I got a little overconfident there. Naruto coughed slightly as he dusted himself off before running through some hand seals. Yugura saw this and ran through his own. Fuden. Daitapa. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Sweden. Dai Teppadama. Water release. Great gunshot. The two techniques clashed in the middle and exploded in a spray of water and mist. The two combatants burst out of the mist and engaged once more in a taijutsu match. Naruto caught a right hook and countered with a high kick to Yugura's left shoulder but was blocked by his left arm. Naruto grinned as he pulled his left hand back and thrust it directly into Yugura's chest and released a powerful force push that knocked Yugura back a fair distance. Yugura coughed out a few drops of blood as he got back to his feet only to see an armored fist make contact with his jaw that sent him flying into the air. Naruto used a force-enhanced leap to jump up to his aerial opponent and delivered a series of powerful blows before force blasting him back into the ground. Yugura groaned as he pulled his battered body back up as Naruto landed back on the ground. He quickly formed several Mizu Bushins to buy himself some time to catch his breath. Naruto raised a hidden eyebrow as he created several cage Bushins of his own without hand seals to deal with the water clones. Yugura, I'm giving you one last chance to step down from your position as Mizukage and leave peacefully. Naruto offered to the panting cage. You can go and die. Yugura panted out before a huge amount of Yuki burst out of his body and his wounds and bruises started to heal. I'm not done yet. Let me give you a taste of my true power. Yugura screamed in insane laughter as the Yuki surrounded him completely in the tailed beast cloak with two chakra tails swishing behind him. Shit, this just got way harder. Naruto cursed as he dodged an attempt to claw his head from his shoulders and leapt over a dual tail sweep that threatened to knock him down. Stay still, you little shit, so I can kill you. A demonic version of Yugura's voice exclaimed. That's not exactly the best offer I've heard, so I think I'll pass. Naruto deadpanned as he avoided an extended Yuki claw. Naruto retaliated with several force-enhanced punches and was glad that he was wearing armor or the Yuki would have burned his hands. Yugura coughed as each punch connected with his chest. He created several more Mizu Bushins with the tailed beast cloak surrounding them. Naruto cursed more colorfully as he began to dodge 4 times the amount of Yuki claws and tails. He soon started to get pissed as the assault didn't seem to let up. Okay, I didn't want to use them, but you just pissed me off. Naruto shouted as he unsealed both his lightsabers, which he had named. The black blade with red glow he had named Shinku no Kage, Crimson Shadow, while the white blade with black glow he named Ten no Kage, Heaven's Shadow. Yugura felt fear rush through his system for some reason when he saw the armored ninja ignite 2 energy blades that looked like the Raijin sword of the Nadaime Hokage. He quickly sent his clones into attack while he ran through some hand seals to prepare for a jutsu. Naruto leaned to the right slightly as a Yuki-covered hand shot past the spot his head occupied a second ago. He swung his lightsaber in a rising slash and felt some resistance from the Yuki cloak before he slashed through the clone and it dissolved back into water. So the Yuki is able to offer some form of resistance. Naruto thought as he impaled another clone through the head as it rushed at him from the back and cut another one into 2. He suddenly sensed danger coming from his left and turned to see Yugura finish his final handseal with a smug grin. Let's see you try and stop my ultimate jutsu. Yugura shouted as the water on the ground and in the atmosphere gathered above him and formed the gaping maw of a giant dragon first and then proceeded to form the rest of the serpent-like body and two translucent wings fanned out across the sky. The fighting across the area paused for a moment as everyone stared slack-jawed at the colossal dragon of water. Nobody had ever seen Yugura use this technique before. Sweden. Kushitsu Suiryu no Seishu Handen. Water release. Final judgment of the Imperial Water Dragon. Yugura shouted in maniacal glee as the massive dragon flew up into the sky and with a roar dive-bombed in a spiraling fashion towards Naruto. Son of a bitch, Naruto sighed just before the dragon slammed into him and exploded with the force of 100 exploding tags. The force of the impact and the blast caused the water and dirt in the vicinity to kick up in a cloud. No, May whispered as her face paled when she had seen the devastating technique smash right into the boy. No, man who had managed to capture her heart despite only being around her for a week or so. The rebels all paled as they saw their only hope of defeating Yugura get struck by the massive water dragon while the Kiri army cheered for their leader's victory. Yugura himself was panting heavily since that jutsu used almost all of his chakra that he had left. He laughed in triumph until a voice sounded across the field. What's so funny, you piece of shit? The demonized metallic voice asked as the smoke cleared to reveal Naruto standing there. His armor was badly damaged in places. The shocking thing was the tailed beast cloak covering his entire armored figure, and it seemed to be repairing the damages made to the armor as well. The Yuki formed two rabbit-like ears atop his head and two swishing red Yuki tails behind him. Why, you're a host too. Yugura shook in fear as he knew only one Biju who had that appearance, the strongest of them all, the Kyuubi no Yoko. Why, yes, I am, surprised. I didn't even plan on using Q-chan's Yuki, but I probably wouldn't even be standing here if I didn't use it. Damn, that jutsu packed plenty of power. Great job creating it. Naruto growled, but Yugura was too afraid to notice the affectionate way Naruto addressed the Kyuubi. I can't believe you took that head on and can still move. What are you? A monster. Yugura stepped back slightly as a huge wave of killing intent burst out of the demonic armored figure. You have the nerve to call me a monster? You, who killed hundreds of innocent men, women and children just because they possessed a Kekkei Genkai. No, Yugura, it is you who are the monster. And your time has come. Naruto snarled as he pointed Shinku no Kage at him. No, never. I refuse to lose to you. I am the youngest to ever make Kage in history. I won't lose to you. Feel my power. Yugura roared as he transformed fully into the Sanbi no Kyodaigame, causing all fighting to cease as everyone turned and fled the area for fear of being caught in the crossfire. May was at first elated when she saw Naruto emerge from the attack relatively unharmed, but that turned into fear as she saw Yugura take on his most powerful form. She wanted to stay and support him but knew that she would only get in the way. This was a fight between two beings of great power and she could only hope Naruto was the victor. Damn, that's a big turtle. Naruto deadpanned as he looked up at the gigantic three-tailed turtle that Yugura had transformed into. The transformed Yugura let a sonic roar that would have sent Naruto flying like the trees around him had he not applied chakra to his feet. Naruto was forced to leap to the side as a gigantic armored tail smashed into the ground he was previously occupying, and jumped again when another tail headed for his position. The final tail shot at him while he was airborne. He twisted to the side and grabbed onto the tail as it shot past him. He pulled himself up onto the tail and ran down it on all fours as he tried to get to the head. Yugura shook himself to try and dislodge Naruto from his back. Wow, down boy. Naruto joked as he held onto the shell with his Yuki claws and shot off towards the head while dodging the three swinging tails that threatened to knock him off. Upon reaching the head, Naruto ignited both his lightsabers again and spun them around once. I said down. Naruto roared as he plunged both lightsabers up to their hilts into the armored head of the transformed Yugura and then pulling them out in force, leaping back to the ground. Yugura let out a roar of pain as the giant turtle stumbled backwards before focusing a hateful glare at the force user. Yugura gathered water and chakra into his mouth before launching 2 spheres of water straight at Naruto, who quickly used the force to knock them off target slightly. "I'm done playing a fool with you," Naruto growled as he turned off both lightsabers and resealed them into their respective storage seals. He concentrated and called on as much force power as possible to gather in and around him. The dirt kicked up as a blue aura spiraled around his form. Yugura could sense his growing power and quickly launched all 3 of his tails at him in a bid to stop him from gathering more power. "Too late," Naruto whispered as he held out both hands in front of him and caught all 3 tails in a force grasp and pushed them back to Yugura. He then used the force to grab the turtle's head and slam it repeatedly into the ground, causing it to go into a slight daze. Naruto raised both hands to his shoulder height, causing all the kunai, shuriken, rocks and even trees in the area to levitate off the ground. He gestured towards the gigantic form of Yugura and immediately all of those objects shot off as improvised projectiles that pierced, cut, smashed and impaled him. Naruto breathed in deeply and exhaled as he fought to lift his arms as if there was a great weight on them. Both sides watched on in awe as the massive turtle was lifted into the air inch by inch. Naruto was starting to pant as he inverted Yugura so that his head was pointed at the floor and slammed it into the floor once, twice and one final time before he let the body fall to the ground. Yugura let out a sound that was in between a growl and a groan as he hauled his giant turtle form back to its feet. He once again charged chakra and water into his mouth. Naruto frowned when he saw this and lifted out his right hand in a closed fist, causing Yugura to be unable to open his mouth. With nowhere to go, the condensed sphere of water chakra exploded inside the unarmored mouth of its user. The giant turtle started to choke on the water before managing to hack it all out. He turned to face his opponent. Naruto had gathered force energy over both his arms, causing them to crackle with purplish blue lightning that raced up and down the length of his entire arm. He pointed both hands at the massive form of Yugura with fingers splayed out and unleashed a torrent of the deadly purplish blue lightning right at him. Yugura howled in pain as the lightning coursed through his entire system. It felt like both his body and soul were being electrocuted by the strange lightning. Naruto was panting as he stopped his barrage for a second. The smoking form of the giant turtle tried once more to rise in a last-ditch attempt. Naruto shrugged as he let loose another stream of force lightning at Yugura, who once again started howling in pain from the lightning. Suddenly the massive turtle form started to shrink and shift back into the scorched and damaged body of its young host. Naruto extinguished the lightning on both his arms and walked towards the body. Yugura noticed from the corner of his eye the approaching form of the armored individual and smiled slightly. Naruto was confused as he saw the smile. "Why are you smiling?" Naruto asked, his voice having turned back to normal after he reined back in Kyuubi's Yuki. "You managed to break the hold the genjutsu had on me," Yugura coughed out, causing Naruto to gasp in surprise. "I was right. Who placed this genjutsu on you? It has to be someone strong since you couldn't break free of it and no one noticed it." Naruto's hand glowed green with healing chakra but was stopped by Yugura's hand. "Stop, I will tell you the name of this person, just promise me one thing," Yugura wheezed. "All right. Just let me heal you first." Naruto was interrupted by Yugura. "No, it's all right, I can't face my people, after what I've done," he rasped out as a frown appeared on Naruto's face, but he accepted the dying Jinchuriki's wish. "I want you to find someone strong to lead Kurigakure after I'm gone, someone like Terumi May yes, she will make a fine leader." Yugura smiled slightly. "I will make sure of that. Now who was it?" Naruto asked again. "His name is Uchiha Madara." Yugura whispered, causing Naruto's and Kyuubi's eyes to widen at the name. Flashback no jutsu. Q-chan, a 7-year-old Naruto called out after they were done training for the day within his mindscape. "Yes, Kit," Kyuubi replied as she turned to look at him. "Why did you attack the village?" Naruto asked. Well, Kit, I guess it's time I told you about it, Kyuubi sighed. When your mother was giving birth to you, the seal containing me inside her was at its weakest and somebody found out about that. A man wearing an orange spiral mask and a black cloak with red clouds on it attacked at the moment of your birth. He held you hostage and forced your father to decide between you or your mother. What happened then? Naruto was entranced by the retelling of the events. Your father chose to save you first, but the masked man had escaped with your mother already. He somehow managed to drag me out of the seal. I was about to attack him when he looked at me with that eye, an eye I did not expect to see ever again. Kyuubi paused to shiver. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he used the power of that eye to send me into a genjutsu-influenced bloodlust that caused me to attack the village and your parents. What's the name of the man that did that? Naruto asked with traces of anger in his voice. His name is Uchiha Madara. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Uchiha Madara. Naruto growled under his breath. It seemed like that guy was behind everything bad that happened in the shinobi world. Yes, now do me a favor, Yugura pleaded. Ask. Naruto replied simply. End it quickly for me, please. Yugura miraculously managed to not cough during that sentence. Fine. Naruto sighed as he unsealed Shinku no cage and ignited it. The black blade with red glow sprung to life with a familiar snap hiss. He positioned it directly above where Yugura's heart would be and plunged it straight in. Sanbi no Yugura died then with a peaceful smile on his face. There is no death, there is only the force, Naruto whispered as he resealed his lightsaber. May you find peace within the force, brother. With that said, Naruto noticed the faint green chakra leaking out of the seal on Yugura's stomach and towards the nearby forest. He smiled slightly as it seemed his hunch about the Sanbi escaping was proven correct. The Kiri army immediately surrendered after watching their leader die at the hands of the guy who just manhandled him in his Sanbi form. Now it was the rebels' turn to cheer in victory as they tied up all the enemy troops and led them back to the base. A small group of people made their way towards Naruto. Damn Revan, you just totally manhandled Yugura in his three-tailed state. Kenjutsu shouted out what everyone was thinking as Naruto turned around with a chuckle. My real name is Naruto, just don't go spreading that around, alright? Naruto told the group, which consisted of Mei, Ao, Kenjutsu and Hayase. Well then Naruto, that would definitely be a battle to tell any of my future children about. Hayase smiled as he shook Naruto's hand. He's right, that has to be the most amazing fight I've seen my entire life. And I've seen some really good fights in my life. I remember this one time when this Iwa Junin fought this. Ao went off on another one of his rants, causing both Mei's and Naruto's eyebrows to twitch again. Ao, shut up or we'll kill you. Both of them said together with the sickly sweet smile and tone, causing Ao to pale and shut up immediately while everyone else just burst out in laughter. Well, Naru-kun, the war has ended thanks to you. Mei said. Naruto removed his helmet and revealed his face, causing everyone but Mei to gasp in surprise. You're that young? Kenjutsu exclaimed in surprise, once again voicing aloud everyone's thoughts. Yes, I am. Naruto deadpanned at the weird statement. And you can own a cage-level opponent? Kenjutsu waved his arms about as if trying to get the point across. I train a lot and eat healthily. Naruto offered jokingly as everyone's sweat dropped. Mei-chan, Yugura wanted me to tell you something. Naruto's tone turned serious. What was it? Mei asked in confusion. He wants you to be the new Mizukage, and he says he's sorry for everything he has done when he was under the influence of the genjutsu. Naruto replied, causing everyone's eyes to bug out at the information. After a few minutes of explaining about Yugura's previous situation while leaving out the part where Madara was the one who planted the genjutsu, Mei pondered it for a while. I accept the title of Mizukage. Mei finally announced, and everyone gave her their support. Well, now that my services are no longer needed here, I guess I will head back to my village. Naruto sighed sadly as everyone was saddened at the thought of their hero leaving. Couldn't you stay a few more days? Mei asked, hopefully causing Naruto to rub his chin in thought. Well, it's not like I have anything important to do back in Konoha. I guess I can stay for 2 or 3 more days. He decided as Kenjutsu cheered and slapped him heartily on the back. That's great. By the way, Naru-kun, I accept that date you offered last week. Mei winked at him and walked off, leaving a stunned Naruto and gaping group of guys until Kenjutsu broke them out of it. Damn man, can you say score? Kenjutsu laughed as he slapped Naruto on the back again. Back in Konoha, Mikoto entered the council chambers to find that everyone except the Hokage was there. She knew what she was here for thanks to Sume for her advance warning. Uchiha Mikoto, we of the council has deemed it fit that you find a husband by the next 5 days or you will be engaged to Mizuki. Homura gestured to the silver-haired Chunin with a smug smile on his face. Mikoto restrained herself from ripping it off his face, at least for the moment. For what reason does the council want me to find a husband so quickly after I lost my last one? Mikoto asked to keep up the act. Since your son is not yet at the correct age to produce offspring, the duty falls to you first to repopulate the Uchiha clan. Danzo replied. And if I do not concede to your wishes? Mikoto narrowed her eyes at the council members. Then we will strap you down and have Mizuki impregnate you. Danzo offered, simply causing Mikoto to gasp in fear and several killing intents to be directed at him, but he just shrugged it off. Fine, I will find a candidate by the end of the week. Mikoto conceded since she would be raped if she didn't comply and left the council chambers with Sume directly behind her. That one-eyed bandaged old bastard better watch himself, because if I don't tear him apart, I know Hiashi will. Sume growled. It was common knowledge that the current head of the Hyuga household hated rapists with a passion. His late wife had on one occasion nearly been raped by Kumo ninjas when she was pregnant with Hinata. I can't believe the council would go to such lengths just to make sure the Sharingan doesn't die out. Mikoto sighed in disbelief as the duo walked to a dango shop to get something to eat. You going ahead with your plan? Sume asked as they sat down and ordered 2 plates of dangos. It's the only choice I have. I only hope that he will accept after he finds out. Mikoto said quietly. Don't worry, if he is anything like you told me, then he will definitely accept it. Sume pet her on the back comfortingly. With Danzo. What is the condition of the patient? Danzo asked the root medic that was just done examining the comatose body of Uzumaki Kushina. I'm sorry sir, but she still doesn't show any sign of responding to the medical jutsus we are trying on her. Not even our best medic has been able to get the slightest movement out of her. The root medic reported as he read from his clipboard. Damn it, why aren't any of our methods working? Danzo ground his teeth in frustration as he needed Kushina to be awake so he could use the death of her husband as a means to turn her into an emotionless root member. If that didn't work, he could always lie and say her son didn't survive the sealing as well, but all the planning went down the drain just because she wouldn't wake up. Keep trying different techniques and let me know if there are any changes. Also keep things as discreet as possible. If Hiruzen, or even worse the Jinchuriki, finds out we have been holding her here, then even Kami won't be enough to save us. Danzo ordered the root medic as he turned to leave the room. By your will, Danzo-sama. The root medic saluted as Danzo left. Some hidden location somewhere. A man with an orange spiral mask wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it tensed slightly. The orange spiky-haired male beside him noticed it. What is it, Madara? The orange-haired male asked. Someone seems to have broken my connection with my puppet, Madara replied in an annoyed tone. Is it that serious of an issue? The male asked with an eyebrow raised. Not really. I expected someone to kill him eventually, but this is way faster than I imagined. Madara admitted as he watched the rain fall outside the tower. So we still move according to schedule. The male turned to look at Madara, revealing a light purple iris with a ripple-like pattern surrounding the pupil. Correct. Have you gathered 10 members like I asked you to, Pain? Madara addressed the orange-haired male. I only have 6 candidates so far, Pain replied. Hopefully more promising candidates will appear in time. Yes, all in time, Madara whispered as the pair silently listened to the dripping rain. Naruto sighed as he got ready for his date with Mei. Why was he sighing when he had a date with one of the most beautiful and females in the elemental nations? Well, that's because Kyuubi has been refusing to talk to him after he had informed her that he was going on a date with Mei and he didn't know why. Clueless. Why has Q-chan been ignoring me since I told her about my date? Naruto thought sadly as he missed conversing with the beautiful red-haired demoness sealed within him. Was it something I said? Naruto sighed again as he looked at his reflection in the mirror. He was wearing a black t-shirt with a matching pair of black jeans. That was all he had for casual attire at the moment since he came to Kiri to fight a war, not to attend a fancy dress party. He just hoped Mei would understand and not melt him with her lava techniques, or acidic steam. It has been a day since the war ended with Yagura's death at the hands of himself. The group decided it was best not to inform the public about Yagura being under an illusion. The Kiri army had quickly pledged their loyalty to Mei, the new Mizukage, as they didn't want to anger the guy who trashed a Biju. So repair works have gone underway with both the bloodline clans and non-bloodline clans working together like they were supposed to. Naruto's presence as Darth Revan ensured that. Naruto had a small smile on his face as he walked down the streets of Kurigakure. While repair works were far from being completed, the village definitely looked better than it had during the war. As he walked towards the general direction of the building that Mei was temporarily staying in, the people on the streets waved a cheery greeting to him with smiles on their faces. Despite his initial protests, Mei had somehow convinced him to show Kiri the true face of their savior. At first everyone was shocked to see such a young face behind the menacing helmet of Darth Revan, but that quickly changed into cheers of admiration and thanks. The civilians here were among the most grateful as they suffered a lot during the bloodline purges and they showed their gratitude by thanking him at every opportunity. Naruto thought back to the previous day's announcement of Mei as the Godlike Mizukage. Flashback no Jutsu. People of Kurigakure. After a year of fighting and bloodshed, the war has finally ended and we can live our lives peacefully under a new leader. Everyone, I present to you our Godlike Mizukage, Terumi Mei. The announcer left the stage as Mei took his place. The crowd were cheering and clapping as she placed the Mizukage's hat on her head. Citizens of Kurigakure, shinobi and civilians alike. I, Terumi Mei, promise to return our village to its former glory and with your help, to show the rest of the hidden villages that we are stronger than ever. Mei felt a sense of pride rush through her as the crowd roared their approval. I thank you all for your support, but there is one person who we should all thank more than anyone else. The person who is responsible for ending the war and defeating Sanbi no Yagura, by himself. I give to you Darth Revan. Mei clapped along with the crowd as the armored form of Darth Revan made its way onto the stage beside her. Mei gestured to the mic, signaling he should address the village as well. As most of you should know by now, I am not a resident of Mizu no Kuni. My homeland is Hai no Kuni, Fire Country, or to be more specific Konohagakure, Hidden Leaf Village. I had overheard the conversation between the Sandaime Hokage and Mei-chan and I heard the old man decline her request for help. Naruto paused as the crowd seemed to mutter about selfish old leaders. So I approached her and extended my services for free as I believed that you all were fighting for a noble cause. However, there is another reason for me, something more personal. I know the feeling of being discriminated, the feeling of being hunted down just because you are different than everybody else, the sadness, sorrow and confusion when people call you names such as freak or monster. Naruto whispered sadly as the bloodline half of the crowd nodded in understanding while the people that originally persecuted them hung their heads in shame. I was rescued from my personal hell by 3 of my precious people, so I couldn't stand by when other people were suffering the same fate as me. Villagers of Kurigakure, please do not reveal the information I am about to share with you with anyone outside the village, even if they are your friends or relatives. My alias is Darth Revan, but my real name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto removed his helmet as everyone gasped at the name, even Mei, as he had not told her. And I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. After he had announced his secret to the entire village, he proceeded to share the story of his life so far in Konoha, every single beating down to the last detail. He wasn't trying to scare them, he just wanted them to realize that he understood how they felt. The entire population had suggested razing Konoha to the ground for what they had done to their hero, shocking Naruto by their hatred towards his village. Naruto was so lost in his memories that he didn't notice he was already standing in front of Mei's doorstep until a total of 5 minutes had passed. Quickly regaining his bearings, Naruto rapped his knuckle on the wooden door 3 times and stepped back to wait. He heard shuffling footsteps approaching the door and the lock being undone before the door opened. Hey Mei-chan, I hope you don't mind my attire because this was all I brought with me to Kiri. Naruto smiled apologetically as Mei gave a small giggle. That's quite alright Naru-kun, we aren't going anywhere fancy. Just a quick bite somewhere and maybe a stroll around Kiri's park. Mei stepped out and locked the door while Naruto took the time to appreciate her figure. She was out of her normal attire consisting of the fishnet bodysuit and ocean blue dress, instead she wore a dark blue tank top and a snug pair of faded blue jeans. The tank top hugged her natural curves and accentuated her cleavage while the jeans conformed to her long, slim legs and showed off her firm. With her hair flowing down naturally, Naruto had to use all his will not to get propelled down the street by a nosebleed and to keep his friend from waking up. Maybe you should take a picture Naru-kun, it might last longer. Mei suggested in amusement, knocking Naruto out of his trance as he rubbed his head sheepishly. Sorry Mei-chan, you just look so in that outfit. Naruto replied honestly but shivered slightly when he saw Mei's smile turn into a devious smirk. Oh really? I think I look much without any clothes on, want to see? Mei asked innocently as she lifted her tank top slightly, and that was too much for poor Naruto's brain to handle as he fainted with a trickle of blood coming from his nose. After shaking him awake, the couple decided to grab a bite at a random roadside store that sold all kinds of food. Naruto had ordered a bowl of Niku udon while Mei settled for a plate of deep-fried tempura. They talked about the rebuilding of Kiri and what were the most important facilities that needed to be rebuilt. I believe the hospital should still be perfectly fine since it wasn't damaged during the war, so the next important structure would be either the Mizukage's Tower or the Ninja Academy. Mei listed off from her mind as she took another bite of the tempura prawn within the grasp of her chopstick. In my opinion, the academy should be the main priority since many good shinobi were lost during the war, so you need to start training the next generation. I personally think Hayase would make a great instructor since he has the skill and patience to teach and handle children. Naruto suggested while thinking of the Junin being surrounded by little kids. I agree, I guess I should speak with him regarding the matter, and if he accepts then I shall have him be the headmaster of the academy. Mei decided and was about to take another bite when the piece of tempura floated out of her reach. She pouted at Naruto, who just took one look at her face and chuckled. Just like Anakin and Padme. Carrot. I stand by my statement that you look cute when you pout. Naruto said as he used the force to float the piece of tempura back to Mei, who bit it right out of the air. They continued chatting but now about non-ninja related things while Naruto used the force to float the pieces of tempura to her mouth where she ate them. The store owner chuckled as he saw this, drawing the attention of both ninjas at the stand and looked at him curiously. The both of you look almost like a real couple with you feeding her, although the method of doing so is a first for me. The OWN chuckled further as both mentioned parties blushed but smiled and continued their actions. We now find the pair strolling through the main park of Kiri hand in hand as they admired the scenery. They were not alone as many other couples were doing the same as well. Mei let out a sigh of contentment as she rested her head against Naruto's shoulder as they sat down on a park bench. This was my favorite place before the war started. My father always used to bring me here and tell me stories about my mother. Mei had a soft smile on her face as she reminisced about her past. What happened to your mother? Naruto asked as nuzzled the top of her head and inhaled the scent of her hair. She smelled like an ocean breeze. She died when I was only a year old. Apparently she had an incurable disease and my birth was too much for her system to handle, so she died a year later. Mei sniffed slightly as Naruto gave her a squeeze to comfort her. My dad always used to say I looked so much like my mom, almost a perfect replica. Then your mom must have been beautiful. What was her name? Naruto asked. Her name was Megumi, Uzumaki Megumi. Mei chuckled slightly at the surprised look on Naruto's face. Surprised? I was too when you first told me your real name. So your mother was from the Uzumaki clan, Naruto mused as he stroked her hair absent-mindedly, something that Mei enjoyed greatly since no one had done that since her father had died at the start of the bloodline purges. The war started a year ago but the bloodline purges had been going on for several. It was only a year ago did they start fighting back. Yeah. Mei trailed off as a depressing thought suddenly came to mind. Naruto immediately noticed the change and inquired about it. Hey, what's wrong Mei-chan? It's just, this has been great Naruto, the most fun I've had in a while, but, Mei bit her lip as tears threatened her vision. Come on, whatever it is you can tell me. Naruto tried to coax it out of her and finally succeeded. You're going back to your village and I might never see you again. Mei blurted out suddenly causing Naruto to go wide-eyed. Baka, is that all you were worried about? I can come see you anytime I want, do you honestly think anyone could stop me? Naruto tilted her head upwards as he spoke to her. You really mean it? Mei asked hopefully as Naruto gave her a small smile. How about I show you? Naruto whispered as he closed the gap between them and captured her lips in a soft but firm kiss. Mei gasped lightly but quickly melted into the kiss and returned with as much vigor. She pouted slightly as he pulled away. Does that prove my sincerity? Naruto kissed her on the forehead this time as she let out a small giggle. It certainly did. Still can't grasp the fact you're 8 years old though, Mei admitted. Well, when you live a childhood like mine, you'd be amazed how quickly your mind matures to keep you alive, but enough with the gloom and doom atmosphere. It's getting late and I believe you should be getting home Mizukage-sama. Naruto joked as he swept her off her feet and carried her bridal style, prompting an eep out of the shocked female. Warn me before doing something like that next time. Mei slapped him on the arm lightly as Naruto carried her back to her room. Is that an order Mizukage-sama? Naruto asked in an amused tone as Mei slapped him on the arm again. And stop with that Mizukage-sama crap, it makes me feel old. Anything for you Mei-chan. Naruto laughed as he suddenly increased his speed causing Mei to hold on to him tightly. Eventually they arrived back at Mei's doorstep, where Naruto gently let her back onto her feet. I really enjoyed myself today Naru-kun, Mei sighed but Naruto drew her in a hug. No sighing Mei-chan. He reprimanded lightly. I may be leaving tomorrow morning but I promise I will visit from time to time. I know, I guess I'll see you off tomorrow morning, night Naru-kun. Mei gave him a small peck on the lips before entering her room and closing the door. Naruto had a smile on his face as he walked back to the apartment Mei had provided him with during his short stay in Kiri. Naruto closed and locked the door behind him before flopping down onto the bed in his room. He thought about all he had done the past week. He sighed as he wondered if anything interesting had happened during his absence in Konoha, since he hadn't gotten any memories that meant the clone was still alive. Mentally shrugging, Naruto rolled on to his side and drifted off into sleep. Mindscape. Naruto opened his eyes to spot the familiar surroundings of his mindscape. He was in the forest that surrounded Kyuubi's house. He made his towards the house he himself had designed that was situated in the middle of the forest. Upon entering the house, Naruto heard the sound of someone crying and there was only one possible person in the house besides himself. He immediately sprinted up the stairs and slammed open the door to Kyuubi's bedroom and found the beautiful demoness sobbing her heart out into a pillow. Q-chan. Naruto exclaimed in worry as he rushed to her side and tried to pull her into a hug, but she pushed him away. Why are you crying, Q-chan? Naruto asked in a soft tone as he sat on the edge of the bed. He reached out a hand and placed it on her shoulder. Kyuubi flinched at the contact but didn't try to pull away. Naruto slowly moved his hand to her back and started to rub it soothingly. What's wrong? Why you can now what's wrong? Kyuubi managed to get out through her hiccuping sobs, causing Naruto to adopt a look of confusion. I do? He asked as Kyuubi broke down again. Naruto quickly pulled her into a hug. Kyuubi initially tried to push him off but gave up halfway and just cried onto his shoulder. I'm sorry, Q-chan, but I don't understand. Was it something I said? No, Kyuubi mumbled but thought. It's something you didn't say, but I would wish for nothing more to hear from you. Please tell me what I did wrong, Q-chan. You know I can't stand to see you cry. Naruto squeezed her shoulders gently as she whispered something under her breath. What is it? Why? It was clearer this time, but the word confused Naruto. What do you mean by why? Naruto was really puzzled by her behavior. Tell me why. Her voice was normal now as she tried to control her sobs. I don't understand what you mean. Why did you pick her? Why not me? Why can't I have a happy ending? Why do I have to feel this way about you? Why don't you love me? Kyuubi's voice lowered at the last part as she grabbed the front of Naruto's shirt in a vice-like grip as tears streaked down her face from her crimson pupils. Why must I be alone? To say Naruto was shocked would be an understatement. The mighty Kyuubi no Yoko, queen of the tailed beasts in hell, the most beautiful and woman he had ever seen, loved him. Now Naruto was by no means gay. If you think he was not attracted to her, he definitely was attracted to her. Q-chan. Naruto used a hand to wipe away the tear marks on her face. Is it because I'm a demon? Or am I not attractive enough? Kyuubi asked softly as she looked at anywhere except Naruto. Q-chan, look at me. Naruto said seriously. I don't give a damn if you're a demon, and I told you before that you are the most beautiful woman on this planet. Then why don't you love me? Kyuubi wailed as her tears sprung forth again. But I do love you, damn it. Naruto shouted as he shook her by the shoulders. She froze on the spot upon hearing that. What? Kyuubi asked hesitantly as if she was afraid that she had misheard it. I love you. Naruto emphasized each word. Then why didn't you tell me? Do you think admitting my feelings for you is easy? You are the Kyuubi, queen of the bijus in hell. Why would someone as beautiful as you choose me when there are so many better guys out there? Naruto trailed off with a sigh. Naru-kun, there is no better man out there than you. You are strong, brave, handsome and smart, but you are also kind, compassionate and caring to those you care about. That's why I kept asking myself, why would someone as wonderful as you show any interest in me, and seeing you with Mei just confirmed it. Kyuubi sniffed slightly. Q-chan, I told you I don't care that you're a demon or if you did anything terrible in the past. I don't care about any of that because in my eyes, Naruto smiled as he drew closer to her. You're perfect just the way you are. Naruto pressed his lips against hers in a passionate kiss. He pushed all the repressed emotions he held into the kiss. Kyuubi couldn't believe that Naruto was kissing her, but her stunned state lasted only a moment before she returned the kiss with equal passion. Naruto didn't know that much about kissing but went with his instincts. He licked her lower lip to ask her entrance to her mouth. Kyuubi opened her mouth in reflex and invited his tongue in to engage in a heated battle for dominance that Naruto won. She moaned as he drew her tongue into his own mouth and sucked on it. They eventually had to separate, leaving behind a trail of saliva that connected their lips. Kyuubi moved beside Naruto and nuzzled deeper into his embrace. Hey Q-chan. Naruto called her name. What is it, Naru-kun? Kyuubi looked up at her blonde-haired lover. What about Mei-chan? Naruto asked in worry. I love you, but I don't want to hurt her, and I think I'm starting to fall for her too. I don't know what to do. As much as I'd love to have you for myself, Koi, love, I know it'd be unfair to other girls, besides I think I just remembered something that would help. Kyubi said. You do. What is it? Isn't there some kind of law in every village stating that the last member of a bloodline clan has to take multiple wives so to restore the clan? Technically you are the last person able to use your bloodline, so, Kyubi let him figure it out from there, which didn't take long as his eyes widened in realization. I have to take multiple wives, but won't you or May mind sharing me? Naruto didn't want to do something that would make her sad. I already said no matter how much I'd want you all for myself, it wouldn't be fair to May as well as others. It is also common practice for male demons of high ranking to take multiple mates. Kyubi gave him a peck on the cheek. But that's for being so considerate about my feelings. I guess if it's alright with you then I could give it a shot, but only if the girls love me for me genuinely. Naruto looked at the demoness he was holding. And I promise to get you out of this seal as soon as possible. I honestly don't care as long as I'm with you, but being on the outside again would be nice. However, I believe you should be getting some shut-eye for your trip back to Konoha tomorrow. Kyubi pulled him down with her onto her bed and used his chest as her pillow. Naruto placed an arm around her waist and pulled her against him. She responded by snuggling into his chest. Naruto closed his eyes as he thought of all the future challenges that would be as hard or harder than the fight against Yugura, but for the moment, with Kyubi in his arms, he was content and complete, which was all that mattered. Naruto was back in his Darth Revan armor as he stood atop Kiri's main gate. While he couldn't see anything due to the dense mist for which the village was named after, he enjoyed the cooling breeze as well as the fresh air. Enjoying the scenery? A feminine voice asked from beside him. He turned his head slightly to see the smiling face of May. Now I am. Naruto replied with a chuckle that May mirrored with her own. He suddenly sighed. May, there's something I need to tell you. You may hate me for this. What is it, Naru-kun? May stepped towards him and gently took his gloved hand. Do you remember about the Kyubi being female? Naruto asked, at which he got a nod from her. I can't think of an easy way to say this, so, she and I are in love with each other and admitted it last night inside the mindscape, so we are lovers now. What? May blinked in confusion before her gaze turned away from him. So what does that mean, about us? Nothing, my Kiri no Tenshi, Angel of the Mist. Q-chan informed me that village laws demand I have multiple wives since I am the last clan member of a bloodline clan. She said that she was fine with it, so how about why? Naruto was cut off as May pulled of his helmet and kissed him on the lips. I'm fine with it as well, as long as I have you, I don't mind sharing. May said after pulling back from the kiss. Thanks, May-chan. Naruto smiled as he pecked on the lips. No problem, Naru-kun. Besides, this way we can have a threesome. May exclaimed, suddenly causing Naruto to be propelled off the gate by a massive nosebleed, as well as several other males that happened to be passing under the gate. After Naruto had recovered from his ordeal, he gave May one last kiss and was about to leap off into the mist when a shout for him to wait came from behind. He turned around and gaped under the helmet when he saw the majority of Kiri gathered at the gate. Well, this is a pleasant surprise. Naruto's voice was once again the metallic tone of Darth Revan. What are you guys doing here? You think we let our hero leave without a proper send-off? Ao grinned as he held out a hand. Naruto grabbed it and shook hands with the man. You better drop by for a visit or I'll hunt you down and drag you here myself. Kenjutsu bumped fists with him. Don't worry, I will. Naruto nodded as he turned to Hayase. You would do great as an academy instructor. I can't wait to see the future genins of Kiri. I assure you they will be the best batch ever. Hayase shook his hand as well. I guess I will be heading off now. Everyone take care and I promise to visit regularly. Naruto gave May a hug before he turned and ran off as the people of Kiri shouted their thanks and well wishes after him. 2 hours later, near border of Hai no Kuni. Naruto paused in mid-stride as he sensed a disturbance in the force. it seemed to be coming from the border between Hai no Kuni and Tsuchi no Kuni, land of earth. Seems like someone is in trouble, and I guess I'll go see what's happening. Damn my sense of curiosity. Naruto sighed as he changed direction and dashed off using the force to enhance his speed. Upon arriving at the origin of the feeling, Naruto spotted 4 Iwa Junins advancing on a purple-haired, Neko-masked ANBU member that was wielding a katana. On closer inspection, he noticed that she was already injured with cuts along her arms and legs and looked extremely tired. Looking around the field, he noticed the bodies of 3 Iwa Junins and 2 Konoha ANBU members, so there must have been a confrontation. Half an hour earlier, Yugo's squad had been assigned to border patrol for the day. She sighed as border patrol was one of the worst tasks for an ANBU to perform because almost nothing interesting happens. They had left the village an hour ago and started out from the west of Hai no Kuni in a counterclockwise direction. Taka reporting in, border between us and Tsuchi no Kuni seems clear. Yugo was knocked out of her thought by Taka's report over the squad radio. Neko confirming report, return to our position Taka. Yugo replied over the radio as she continued hopping through the trees with Boar and Mouse just behind her. Taka returning and shit. His reply descended into static after that outburst, causing the trio to pause. Taka, what happened? Taka report in, damn it. Everyone head towards where we last felt his chakra presence. Yugo shouted as they leapt away in the direction of Tsuchi no Kuni. After a few minutes of searching, they finally found Taka's bloody corpse impaled by multiple spears made of pure stone. Yugo could feel the killing intent being released by her 2 squad members. She signaled them to calm down and stay together. Doden. Doryuso. Earth release. Rising stone spears. Cried out several voices as the trio leapt into the trees as the ground below them transformed into a mass of sharp stone spikes. Oh ho ho. Very good for Konoha scum, too bad your buddy was not as lucky as you. A gruff voice chuckled as 7 Iwa Junin stepped out from behind the trees. Damn, Yugo muttered under her breath as she drew her katana and settled into a sword stance. Her squad mates drew out a kunai each and prepared to engage the enemy as well despite being severely outnumbered. You know that our squads were doing a routine border patrol when we started feeling bored, so I thought why not hunt some Konoha scum to get some revenge for the Third Great Ninja War. The guy who seemed to be the leader of the group laughed maniacally. Don't underestimate the strength of the shinobi of Konoha or you'll regret it. Yugo said before disappearing in a blur and swinging her sword at neck height but was blocked by another Iwa Junin using a kunai. Big words, but let's see you back them up. In Iwa I am known as the Berserker Wolverine and you'll find out why right now. He roared as 3 metal claws unsheathed from the gauntlets located on both his hands. He sprang at Yugo with a flurry of wild swipes and slashes which she blocked easily with her katana but was forced to backpedal due to the force behind each blow. You may have the brute strength but you lack any form of technique to your style, if you can even call it that. Yugo taunted her enemy as it seemed to work because he started swinging even more crazily and randomly. She saw from the corner of her eye that Mouse had taken down her opponent before being stabbed in the back by another while Boar had managed to take down 2 of his before being hit by an earth jutsu. Ha ha ha, your squad is dead now and you're all alone. You know if you surrender right now, I might consider letting you live as my slave. He grinned lecherously. I'd sooner die. Yugo spat venomously but could feel her strength failing due to repeatedly blocking his strong blows and her body was covered in cuts due to narrow misses. Oh well, can't say I didn't offer, so now do me the honor of dying by my claws. He shouted and swung a gauntleted claw down at her as she raised her katana in a weak defense. Yugo closed her eyes as she thought this was going to be the end when she heard a sound and the guy in front of her grunt in pain. If there is one thing I really hate the most in this world, it would be rapists. At first I thought I would make your death quick, but after what you said to Neko-chan, you will suffer. A demonic metallic voice roared as Yugo opened her eyes in time to see the black armored figure in front of her deck the guy in the face and send him crashing into a tree. Get him! The other Iwa Junins shouted as they charged at him with kunais drawn. The figure just stood there as a dark feeling started emanating from him. You dare to attempt to harm those precious to me, you dare to threaten them, my name is Darth Revan and you shall remember it because that is the name of your executioner. Naruto shouted in anger as waves of dark energy radiated from him and all the Junins dropped their weapons and clutched at their throats. Yugo watched in awe as Revan held an entire group of Junins at his mercy without even lifting a hand. It looked like they were being choked by an invisible force. Please, have mercy. A random shinobi choked out, causing Naruto to chuckle darkly. Mercy. Mercy, you say? Ha 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 ha. Naruto grinned darkly under his mask. I'm sorry to inform you, but, all out of mercy. Naruto increased the pressure on their necks as he said that. Multiple snaps could be heard echoing through the forest as 3 bodies dropped back onto the ground dead. Stay there, Neko-chan, I will get back to you when I'm done taking out the trash. Naruto growled as he strode towards the shaking figure of Iwa's so-called berserker Wolverine. Neko-chan, so far only one person has called me that, but isn't he in the academy? Yugo thought in confusion as she watched in interest. Stay away from me, why you, whatever you are. The man shouted in fear as he pressed himself against the tree trunk behind him. You don't deserve a quick death such as your squad had. No, I have a more fitting end for you in mind. Naruto still had the dark grin on his face as he hauled him up with one hand and placed his other hand on the guy's face. You will be the first to taste my new power. Seiketsu Heisui. Life drain. Yugo watched in disgust as red lightning coursed through the man and he suddenly started to age rapidly in front of her very eyes. Soon the body was nothing but a shriveled mummy that turned to dust. Sorry you had to see that, Neko-chan. The metallic voice shifted into a light tone as the figure crouched down beside her. That's all right, he deserved it, Naruto. Yugo smirked slightly as the figure stiffened at the name. So you are the infamous Darth Revan How did you figure it out? Naruto sighed in resignation. 1. You just confirmed it. Yugo chuckled as Naruto face-palmed his helmet. 2. Only one person has ever called me Neko-chan. Very good, Neko-chan. Naruto was at a loss since he didn't know how to handle the situation. Can you show me your face? Yugo asked hesitantly. I guess it is all right, but you have to remove your mask as well. Naruto added as an afterthought, which Yugo agreed to. He reached up and popped off his helmet at the same moment Yugo took off her ANBU mask. They both gasped slightly. Why, Kami? Why does every female I save have to have the face of one of your angels? Is this some kind of sick twisted joke on your part? Naruto inwardly cried anime tears. There Naru-kun. I'm sure Mei would be happy to have another harem sister. A foursome does sound fun, Kyuubi mused in his mind, which almost caused him to faint from blood loss again. This hunk is Naruto. What happened to him? I know it's him since only he has the distinct whisker-like birthmarks on his face, and I can't sense a genjutsu, and when did he get so strong? Yugo's head started hurting a little as too many thoughts ran through her mind and threatened to drown her. Neko-chan. Naruto's voice knocked her out of her thoughts and she saw him looking at her with concern. You kind of zoned out there, you okay? Hi Naruto, and my real name is Yugo, Azuki Yugo. Yugo got back up on her feet and sighed as she looked at her dead squad. How are we going to haul all these dead back? Well, we only need your squad's bodies, so. Naruto glanced at her and she caught onto his train of thought. The duo gathered the bodies of the Iwa Junin and placed them together before Naruto took one of the corpses and dragged it out. We need evidence that Iwa attacked your squad. Naruto explained when he saw Yugo's lifted eyebrow, who made an "oh" with her mouth in realization. Would you please do the honors since I'm not attuned towards fire? I'm a wind element user. Yugo replied. Two wind users without a fire to fan, guess I'll do it another way then. Naruto sighed as he brought both his hands together and pushed them apart slowly. The soil underneath the pile of bodies separated in half as the bodies dropped into the newly formed hole. He then pushed his hands back together and the soil filled the hole in again, all the while Yugo watched with a slack jaw. How in Kami's name did you do that? She half shouted. That's simple. Naruto looked at her seriously before smiling. My bloodline. Yugo facefaulted at the answer as Naruto chuckled since he enjoyed doing that to everyone who asked the question. He suddenly turned serious as he replaced his helmet. Yugo, can I trust you to keep this a secret? My identity and my powers, can I trust you not to tell anyone, even the Hokage? Naruto's voice once again came out with the metallic tone to it. I don't know, why would you want to hide your abilities? And who or what is attending the academy in your place? Yugo asked. The answer to your second question would be a reinforced Kage Bushin, as to why I hide my abilities. Take a guess, if the council sees me, the host of the Kyuubi, suddenly become so powerful, what would be the first thing in mind? Naruto chuckled darkly as realization dawned on her face. Yes, I would be executed due to suspicion of the Kyuubi taking over my body, or turned into a mindless weapon under Danzo Tem. If that's the case, then I guess I can keep quiet about it, since nothing bad is going to happen even if I don't reveal it. Yugo conceded, causing Naruto to hug her. Thanks Yugo-chan, I also want to thank you for protecting me for the first 5 years of my life. Naruto said as he hugged the purple-haired female ANBU, who was blushing up a storm since she could feel his muscles due to the hug. It's alright Naruto-kun. I couldn't stand by and let an innocent child get beaten. Yugo replied as she started to enjoy the hug. Ah, do I look like a child now? Naruto asked cheekily as he, accidentally, pushed his groin into her pelvic region, earning a gasp from her. No. Yugo stuttered as she felt Naruto's package pressing against her nether regions. Most definitely not, judging by the length of his no. Must not think bad thoughts. Don't want to end up like Kakashi-senpai. Somewhere in Konoha, Kakashi sneezed suddenly as he was walking alongside Guy, who was trying to get him to ignite his flames of youth by challenging him continuously with ridiculous challenges. My eternal rival, it appears that you have a cold. Come, I shall strip and lend you my most youthful clothes to keep you warm. Guy shouted as he began to remove his flak jacket and jumpsuit. Quote exclamation mark quote. Everyone in the immediate area including Kakashi immediately disappeared as fast as Minato using the Hiraishin technique, leaving Guy in the middle of the deserted street. Yosh. It appears my eternal rival has gotten even faster than me. I cannot allow him to beat me, so I shall train harder than before. Guy exclaimed to nobody in particular as he ran off in a random direction. Back with Naruto and Yugo. Yu-chan doesn't think I'm a child anymore. Naruto shouted in joy as he, accidentally, grinded against her further. Apparently all the teasing sessions between him and Kyuubi did pay off. That's G great and Naruto-kun B, but can why you let G go of me and now? Yugo desperately tried to prevent herself from moaning as she felt herself getting wetter and more aroused. Naruto complied and let her go with an unseen grin. Now he knew why Kyuubi found it fun to do those things to him before. Why do I suddenly feel disappointed that he let me go? Damn, I really need a release now. Maybe I should just ask him to give me another hug. No. Bad thoughts again. Must not turn into a pervert. Yugo argued internally before she realized that the bodies of her comrades were missing. Where did my dead squad go to? Oh, I sealed them into a scroll for easier transport while you were standing there spacing off. Naruto threw a scroll at her, which she caught and stored someplace safe. When did you learn how to use Fuinjutsu? Yugo asked. I just read a book about it, found it surprisingly easy to understand for some reason. Naruto shrugged as he walked towards her. Due to my Uzumaki bloodline, I guess, but no need for her to know that I know. Are we going back together? Yugo picked her katana back up and cleaned it on the grass before sheathing it. You are going to report to the Hokage and then checking into the hospital to get those wounds looked at while I am going to sneak in. Naruto poked her on her forehead, which made her pout. You forgot to replace your mask, Neko-chan. Will I be seeing you around? And I mean you, not some orange-colored monstrosity of a cage bushin. Yugo asked as she put her mask back in place. You may not. It all depends on the circumstances. Ya-ne-yu-chan. Naruto waved as he walked off in another direction. Yugo looked at his back for a moment before leaving towards Konoha. An hour later, 12 p.m. Naruto had made it back to his apartment without notice and ate a cup of instant ramen. In his defense, it was the only thing that was edible in his cabinet. I should really stock up on food products. On that thought, I might as well get a new house because this one definitely will not do. Naruto sighed as he looked at the rundown apartment. Someone like you shouldn't be staying in a dump like this, Koi. Kyuubi added her input. I know, but what can I do? I don't have enough money. Apparently saving the day isn't as well paying as I thought. Naruto thought as he realized that he had yet to dispel his shadow clone. It's still in the academy, Naru-kun. You should dismiss it when it is out of school for the day. Kyuubi reminded him. Right. What do I do for the next 6 hours? Naruto sighed again, but in boredom this time. Why not go for a walk around the village? Kyuubi suggested, to which he shrugged and changed out of his armor but kept the hooded cloak. Streets of Konoha. I am still bored, Naruto said to no one in particular as he walked along the market streets of Konoha with the hood of his cloak thrown over his head to cover his features. He didn't want to use henge transformation, since this was a ninja village and it would be easily spotted. He was so lost in the sea of boredom that he bumped into someone by accident. He turned to apologize but smiled as he realized who it was. Mikoto-chan. Naruto said softly since he didn't want any eavesdroppers on their conversation. That voice, Mikoto thought as she slowly looked up and into the darkness of the hood and saw only a fox-like grin, but that was all she needed to see. Revan-kun. Mikoto smiled in return as she called him by his alias but frowned when she remembered her situation. Is something wrong, Mikoto-chan? Naruto asked in concern since he saw the frown. Well, come with me, this conversation isn't meant to be outdoors. Mikoto grabbed him by his hand and pulled him in the direction of her house. Naruto blinked in confusion but went with the flow. Mikoto locked the front door after they entered before checking through the window blinds for any unwelcomed eavesdroppers while Naruto merely watched with amusement. If you wanted to know if there was anyone eavesdropping, then the answer is no. He offered helpfully. How do you know? Mikoto asked. I'm just that good. Naruto smirked as Mikoto sighed, somehow expecting that kind of answer from him. So what was it you wanted to talk about, or are you just trying to get me into your bedroom? If Mikoto was drinking something, she would have done the classic and inevitable spit take, but alas, she had to settle for tripping over her own feet. What the hell are you saying? Mikoto shot back to her feet as she pointed a trembling finger at him. Her entire face was one massive blush. Just putting facts together. 1. You practically dragged me here. 2. You locked the door, which is uncommon in ninja households. 3. You checked the windows to make sure no one was spying on us. Naruto raised a finger with each point. That's because this is an important conversation. Mikoto cried out in frustration. I'm just saying, from my point of view it looked like you were going to seduce me, or tie me up. Please tell me you're not one of those bondage fans. Naruto imagined Mikoto in a leather outfit standing over his tied-up form. On second thought, that's not so bad. Mikoto opened her mouth but nothing came out, so she settled for burying her head into her hands. This was the guy who was supposed to help her. Okay, I've had my kicks, now tell me what's on your mind. Naruto said as he suddenly adopted his serious persona, causing Mikoto to look at him strangely. What? Nothing. Naruto, I have a favor I have to ask you. Mikoto sighed as she fiddled with her hands. What is it? Naruto asked. Naruto, marry me. Mikoto could feel the blush returning full force when she said it. Naruto's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he heard the favor and did the first thing that came to mind, he fainted. Mikoto blinked and looked at Naruto's prone form. That could have gone better. She stated and went to find a wet cloth to wake him up, all the while mumbling something under her breath. Bondage, huh? 5 minutes later, Naruto stared at Mikoto, who had just finished explaining her situation. His eyes narrowed and went from the normal cerulean blue to ice-cold blue, and if you looked closely you could see slits in the pupils. Who was the one who requested this again? The voice that came out wasn't his normal one or the metallic one of Darth Revan. His tone was as cold as ice at the moment. A chunin named Mizuki. Mikoto replied but shivered a little at the frigidness of his answer. Ah, the silver-haired academy instructor. Wait here for a moment while I go correct this for you. Naruto stood up and moved towards the door but was held back by Mikoto's hand. He looked at her with a puzzled expression. You can't kill him no matter how much of a bastard he is. Can we just do it my way, please? Mikoto begged as she looked at him with teary eyes. I don't want to be raped. Naruto sighed as he pulled her into a hug and rubbed her back soothingly with his right hand. How do I keep ending up in these situations? Probably something to do with karma. Kyuubi suggested. But I haven't done anything bad. Okay, I didn't do anything bad to people that didn't deserve it. Naruto corrected as he remembered all the people he killed. You call having a hot MILF asking you to marry her bad luck? Kyuubi asked as if he was stupid. No. Naruto sighed again. He seems to be doing that a lot, hasn't he? Mikoto-chan. Naruto placed the teary-eyed woman on the couch again and sat beside her. Do you want to marry me only because of escaping your fate? Mikoto opened her mouth to say yes when she started to really think about it. While she would be safe from Mizuki, that wasn't the only reason. Not really. I also want to marry you because I think you're a good person. You saved me during the massacre. You are also brave, strong and kind, not to mention very handsome. Mikoto admitted with a blush. I think I might have begun to fall for you after you saved me. Mikoto-chan, you must know something before I can agree to this. Naruto looked her right in the eyes as he spoke. I have to take multiple wives because of my bloodline, and I already have 2 who agreed to share me. Are you willing to do that? Naru-kun, I guess I would be willing to share, but you have to treat all of us equally. Mikoto demanded. Who said I wouldn't? Naruto chuckled as he pulled her into a kiss. Thanks to Mei and Kyuubi, he had some experience now. Mikoto moaned into the kiss as Naruto forced his tongue into her mouth and explored it with his tongue. He pulled back with a grin as he watched Mikoto regain her bearings. Now there are many things you have to know. 5 hours later, Mikoto had spent the entire time Naruto had been retelling his double life as Darth Revan with her mouth hanging off the hinges. She finally managed to close it after the explanation ended. If that came from anyone but you, I would have told them to get their head checked immediately. Mikoto deadpanned while Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. Ending a war by defeating the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, who happened to be a kage, getting together with the new Mizukage and the Kyuubi no Yoko, who was actually female and was under a genjutsu during the attack, and killing Iwa Junins all by the age of 8. You hit the nail on the head. Naruto chuckled weakly as he stood up. Well, I guess I'll be leaving you to ponder those thoughts as Sasuke will be coming back now. Alright, you do realize you would have to show them your identity. Mikoto was referring to the council as she said it. I'll just use a small illusion to cover up my whisker marks, that way they wouldn't know it's me. Naruto leaned in and pecked her on the lips before leaving through the front door. I wonder if Sasuke would accept him as his new father. I hope he does, that way he will have a good role model to follow. Mikoto sighed as she went to prepare dinner. Naruto's rundown apartment. Are you sure you don't have some kind of bloodline that attracts girls to you? Kyuubi commented as he lay down on his bed. Nope, At least I don't think so. Must be Kami's way of screwing with me, Naruto suggested before he remembered that he had yet to dispel his shadow clone, which should be on the way back. He concentrated until he managed to find the soul link connecting him and his cage Bushin. He sent the command to dispel and started to meditate so he could process the memories more efficiently. He stiffened as he came across the clone's memory showing Danzo exiting the abandoned building. He watched through his clone's eyes as it made its way through the window and into the building. He saw the clone stumble upon the titanium doors and smirked as he watched it use the force to move them out of the way, but what he saw inside wiped the smirk off his face in an instant. What is it? Kyuubi fell silent upon witnessing the memory as well, for lying upon the bed in the middle of the room was one Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto's face was a blank as he finished processing the memories. The wind suddenly started picking up around him as his eye color flickered between blue and red. Hokage's Tower. Sarutobi Hiruzen had just finished his paperwork for the day. He stretched his old back before sitting down in the chair again and pulled out a small orange book. He was about to start reading it when suddenly a crushing pressure fell across the entire village, even he had slight problems breathing. Danzo. An inhumane roar echoed throughout the village as Hiruzen recovered enough to stand back up and looked out the window to see a maelstrom of power slowly making its way towards the Hokage's tower. He threw off the Hokage's robe to show his full battle armor underneath and leapt out the window and moved towards the source like the other ninjas of the village. Back with Naruto. Naruto had changed back into his armor and was marching towards the Hokage's tower as Darth Revan. His visor was glowing crimson and the air around him was dense with his power. Tendrils of red and blue energy flared and swirled around him in a spiral. With each step he took, the ground underneath him shattered under the pressure being emitted from his body, and the civilians and genins he walked past immediately fainted from the powerful aura. Give me Danzo. Naruto roared at the group of shinobi that had gathered in front of him. One of the foolishly brave souls stepped forward. Darth Revan, under orders by Lord Hokage, we are to detain you for questioning. He shouted as the group took out various weapons and several started forming hand seals. Get out of my way, maggots. I don't have time to deal with insects. Naruto swung his right hand in a sweeping motion from left to right. Immediately all the shinobi were flung into the buildings on the right side of the street by an invisible force. Naruto sneered at them before continuing towards the tower. He suddenly sensed an immediate attack thanks to the force. Multiple junins that were stationed on the rooftops watched in horror as the shurikens and kunai they had thrown suddenly froze in midair, held by an invisible force. Naruto smirked as he shot all the projectiles back at their owners by a force repulse. He turned back in front to see a weird guy wearing green spandex charging him at an impressive speed. You will not defeat me, my most unyouthful opponent. Guy exclaimed as he initiated a Konoha Senpu, leaf whirlwind, in the direction of Naruto, who merely raised a hand and Guy felt his legs get caught in an invisible grip. Out of my way, freak. Naruto growled darkly as he slammed Guy into the ground 3 times before flinging him into the side of a building. He growled even more when he saw a large group of ninjas rushing towards his location from the front. He clenched both his fists that he had pulled back and gathered force energy into them. Suin Chikara no Taiho. Twin force cannons. Naruto shouted as he punched both fists forward and 2 huge beams of concentrated force energy shot forth from them and slammed into the oncoming group of ninjas. The result was a huge explosion of force energy that tore up the ground and flung chunks of debris and the bodies of the shinobi into the air. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Grand Fireball Technique. A large ball of fire blasted out of a junin's mouth and straight at Naruto, who looked at it impassively. He raised his right hand and grabbed the fireball using the force. He compressed it into a ball the size of his head and flung it back. The resulting explosion destroyed the building the junin was standing on, but the man himself had managed to leap to safety. Stop wasting my time. Naruto snarled as he used the force to trick the chunins in the area to start attacking the junins while he force leapt across the rooftops towards the tower. Yet again he was interrupted by another Junin. This one had a beard and was smoking a cigarette while he wielded two trench knives that Naruto noticed were enhanced by wind chakra. Move or I will not hesitate to break your bones and then remove you. Naruto told him, but the Junin shook his head and spat out his cigarette and took on a fighting stance. Asuma dashed towards Revan and attempted to slash him across the chest, keyword being, attempted. Naruto easily caught both his hands with his own before twisting sideways and snapping a kick upward that caught Asuma directly in the chin. I tire of this, Naruto said simply as he spun around on one foot and delivered a force-enhanced roundhouse kick to Asuma's sternum and knocked him off the roof. Naruto leapt towards the next roof but was tackled to the ground by a speeding green blur. He sprang back to his feet to see Guy standing there again. You are an annoyance. I cannot allow your unyouthfulness to continue on, masked stranger. Guy shouted as he vanished in a blur but felt his neck slam violently into a waiting gloved hand. Chikara Heisui. Force drain, Naruto whispered as Guy suddenly felt all the strength seep out of his body and Naruto let his limp body drop onto the floor. He blinked as he realized he was surrounded by Junins and Chunins on all sides. Another deep growl made its way past his lips. Why do you insist on stopping me? All I want is Danzo Tem. What do you want with Danzo, Revan-san? An aged voice asked as Naruto turned towards it and spotted the Sandame standing there in full battle armor. You will find out when he is brought out here. Naruto replied darkly. Hiruzen contemplated this for a while before he signaled to ANBU to fetch Danzo from the elder's room. Everyone waited in tense silence as rain started to fall across the area and lightning flashed across the sky, only serving to make the image of Darth Revan all the more terrifying. Eventually the two ANBU reappeared with Danzo, who looked at the figure of Naruto in his armor with something akin to boredom. Yes, what is it, Revan-san? You go tearing through our village and Shinobi to speak to me and here I am. Danzo spoke calmly as the rain started to pour more heavily and a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky accompanied by a roar of thunder. You, it's really you, Naruto's voice trembled with barely suppressed rage and hatred. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what exactly? Danzo replied in the same patronizingly calm tone. Why did you hide Uzumaki Kushina from me? Naruto roared as the gathered shinobi and Hiruzen all gasped in surprise that Kushina was alive and Danzo was holding her. It makes no difference if you all knew or not, she has been in a coma since the Kyuubi attack. Danzo answered again, though this time his voice held a bit of uncertainty. I could have healed her, you asshole. How do you expect her to recover when you hide her away in some abandoned building? Naruto grinned under the mask at Danzo's shocked expression. That's a nice look for you, shocked. Yes, I know where you hid her and I already got her out of the building with a cage bushin. Danzo, what is the meaning of this? Hiruzen shouted at the old war hawk, who glanced at him. Nothing much, Hiruzen. Your ideals for Konoha were always too soft. We need a militaristic approach for Konoha to reach the greatness it is destined for, so I plan to make her an emotionless puppet under me. Too bad she didn't awake from her coma. Danzo trailed off before a malicious grin came to his face. Maybe I should have just had her impregnated so I could use the baby as a. He didn't get to continue further as a huge amount of killing intent slammed into him, rendering him speechless. Everyone looked to the source of it, which was none other than the armored form of Darth Revan. He took one step forward and pointed his right hand directly at Danzo. Nothing much, Hiruzen. Your ideals for Konoha were always too soft. We need a militaristic approach for Konoha to reach the greatness it is destined for, so I plan to make her an emotionless puppet under me. Too bad she didn't awake from her coma. Danzo trailed off before a malicious grin came to his face. Maybe I should have just had her impregnated so I could use the baby as a. He didn't get to continue further as a huge amount of killing intent slammed into him, rendering him speechless. Everyone looked to the source of it, which was none other than the armored form of Darth Revan. He took one step forward and pointed his right hand directly at Danzo. You just made the worst mistake of your life, no one is to interfere. Naruto shouted suddenly as he glared pointedly at everyone including the Hokage. This is my fight, and I am going to enjoy ripping this limb from limb. Hiruzen had seen the maelstrom of power that Darth Revan could emit, so he wasn't worried about him losing, but he was worried about the amount of people that might be caught in the crossfire. So with that thought in mind, he decided to concede to Revan's request of having them stay out of the fight. All Konoha shinobi, please retreat to a safe distance from the point of battle. I have seen Revan's power and don't want any of you to be caught in the crossfire. The Sandaime shouted as the Leaf Ninjas started to back away from what they had just dubbed Ground Zero, at a rapid pace. Danzo, I suggest you take this fight seriously, for I will not be pulling my punches. Naruto snarled as he cracked both his knuckles and pointed a finger at Danzo, who frowned slightly at his remark. I'm afraid I don't know what you mean, Reva. Danzo was interrupted by a loud growl from Naruto. Cut the bullshit. I know all about that right arm of yours, and your bandaged eye as well. Naruto smirked under his helmet as Danzo started to look panicked. Stealing multiple Sharingans from the corpses of the dead Uchiha clan members and implanting them into your Mokuten enhanced right hand, as well as implanting the eye of Uchiha Shisui into your own eye socket. How could you have known? The procedure was top secret and was completed only a week prior. Danzo exclaimed in shock before his face conformed into a mask of horror at the file in Naruto's hands. You shouldn't leave your personal notes lying around where other people can just pick them up. Naruto waved the file at him before flinging it at the Hokage, who caught it in one hand and proceeded to read it. You could see the aged face of the Hokage adopt a furious expression. He kept the file in a storage seal on his armor. Danzo, I always knew you kept Root active despite my orders to shut it down, and now I have evidence to prove it, as well as your covert dealings with Orochimaru. Hiruzen managed to keep the rage from his voice. Revan-san, this traitor is yours to deal with as you see fit. I don't need your permission, old man, but thanks anyway now. Naruto chuckled darkly as he turned his crimson-visored gaze onto Danzo. Time for some fun. Naruto dashed towards Danzo with force-enhanced speed and threw a right hook that Danzo managed to catch. He lashed out with a left high kick that connected with Danzo's head and knocked him backwards. Danzo grabbed his head and hissed in pain before tearing off the bandages over his eye and right hand, revealing that he did in fact have Sharingans implanted in both places. Ha ha ha. Now it's more interesting. Naruto grinned as he witnessed Danzo run through hand seals at a blinding pace and breathe in deeply. Futen. Shinkugyoku. Wind release. Vacuum sphere. Danzo shot out multiple spheres of condensed air in a widespread pattern directly at Naruto, who yawned as he cancelled them out with a well-timed force repulse. Danzo growled at the fact that the black armored figure wasn't taking him seriously. He quickly blazed through more hand seals and took a deeper breath. Futen. Shinku Taegyoku. Wind release. Great vacuum sphere. Danzo exhaled a larger and more condensed sphere of wind chakra at Naruto. The sphere was easily redirected into a random building by the force. Danzo gritted his teeth before snapping his fingers and summoning the entirety of his root division. Let's see how you fare against my elite soldiers. I thought you'd never ask. Naruto shouted in glee as he engaged several root ninjas in taijutsu. It was a breeze for him thanks to his force awareness. He ducked under a straight jab before leaping over a leg sweep. He flipped over a root member and force pushed him into the ground. Naruto sidestepped a downward slash of a Tonto and grabbed the wrist of its wielder before crushing it and flinging the guy into his comrade. Is this all your elite soldiers got? Boring. All root members engage the target immediately. Danzo screamed as all the black-clothed root members leapt at Naruto with Tontos drawn or started to run through hand seals. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Fire release. Grand Fireball technique. Naruto destroyed the fireball through the force as he force flipped over several root members and decapitated them with a Tonto he liberated. Naruto landed with a force stomp that sent the root around him flying away. he lashed out with both arms and grabbed two root ninjas by the head. Seikatsu Heisui. Life drain. Everyone watched on in a state of semi-awe and semi-disgust as both root members started to age before crumbling into dust. Danzo started to sweat upon seeing that. If this stranger could do that so easily, what else could he do? Sweden. Teppadama. Water release. Gunshot. Several giant balls of water were launched at Naruto, who experienced a sense of deja vu as he froze them in midair and they fell back onto the ground as puddles. Naruto blocked a horizontal slash using his stolen tanto and force pushed the root member away before twisting his body to avoid a hail of kunai and shuriken. He back-flipped several paces and threw the tanto with a force-enhanced fling that caused it to impale through several root shinobi at once. Ninpu. Choju Giga. Ninja art. Super Beast imitation picture. Naruto turned to see a young root boy launch several ink lions out of a scroll and towards him. He raised an unseen eyebrow at the kid's technique since he hadn't seen something like that before. He used the force to launch a barrage of kunai at the ink beasts that quickly dissolved back into ink upon impact. Naruto suddenly felt his limbs being restrained and looked down to see multiple ink snakes binding his hands and legs. Very good boy, using the lions as a distraction so you could capture me using your ink snakes, too bad I'm your opponent. Naruto used a quick force repulse to blow the ink snakes to pieces and force pulled the young boy to him and knocked him out with a quick chop to the neck. He tossed the boy to the side and dodged several smaller balls of fire and wind. It seemed Danzo had finally joined in the fight as well. Danzo fumed that his surprise attack had missed. He was so sure that the young root boy would have distracted him, but it was like Revan had eyes in the back of his head. Naruto force-grabbed two root ninjas and slammed them into each other before launching their unconscious bodies like missiles at their comrades. He leapt out of the way of a lightning bolt before having to dodge several spheres of lightning being flung at him. You want lightning? I'll show you lightning. Naruto roared as his forearms were once again covered in dancing purplish blue lightning. He shot forks of this purple lightning in as he danced through the group of root shinobi. Those that were hit by the technique immediately dropped to the ground smoking with the lightning arcing all over their bodies. Naruto force leapt up into the air as he charged a large amount of force energy into his hands. Suin Ryaku Kaminari Hu. Twin Force Lightning Cannons. Naruto launched two huge beams of purplish lightning straight down into the group of root shinobi. The beams impacted onto the ground and exploded in a dome of crackling purple lightning. Most of the root ninjas now lay smoking and dead on the cold concrete pavement they once stood on. Naruto landed in a crouch before turning to face Danzo. Just you and me left, Shimura Danzo. No, it's just me, Revan. Fuden. Shinku Renpa. Wind release. Vacuum serial waves. Danzo shot out multiple blades of wind in random angles that sped towards Naruto, who force leapt above them as Danzo smirked and finished the hand seals he had been performing. Doden. Doryuso. Earth release. Rising stone spears. Naruto cursed as he didn't have enough time to charge a strong enough force repulse. He quickly unsealed both his lightsabers and ignited them. All present ninjas felt their eyes widen upon seeing the two weapons that resembled the Nadime's Raijin but looked more elegant in comparison. The lightsabers hummed as he weaved a defensive shield with them. The incoming stone spears were cut into tiny pieces as Naruto landed on his feet again. I can't believe you forced me to reveal my weapons, Naruto growled as the hiss of water evaporating upon contact with the glowing beam could be heard across the battlefield. Where did you acquire those weapons? Danzo demanded as he eyed the two glowing weapons in Naruto's hands. That won't matter to you since you wouldn't be alive long enough to care. Naruto force dashed and swung both lightsabers as he passed Danzo. He turned around and was shocked at what he saw. He had been expecting Danzo to have been cut in half completely, but instead was met with the sight of Danzo's body fading away before reappearing completely fine. What the hell? Now you see how futile your efforts are against the might of the Sharingan. Danzo exclaimed, but Naruto ignored him and instead noticed that an eye on his arm had closed. So this is the famed Izanagi that allows the user to bend the line between reality and illusion within a small space around him at the cost of losing the sight of that eye forever. Naruto growled lowly after recalling what it was he had read in the file. You just got a lot more irritating to kill. Kuchio's no jutsu. Baku. Summoning technique. Baku. Danzo slammed his palm onto the ground and a giant seal matrix appeared before a huge column of smoke enveloped the area, causing Naruto to leap up onto a nearby rooftop. When the smoke cleared, it showed a giant elephant-like creature that was black in color with several white markings located on its body. An elephant version of you. Naruto pointed out with amusement, since the elephant thing wore bandages around its head like Danzo had. Danzo ignored the jab as he performed hand seals yet again and breathed in. Fuden. Shinku Renpa. Danzo shouted as multiple blades of wind sped at Naruto yet again. However, as he was about to jump clear, he felt a huge suction pulling him towards the attack. Naruto saw that the summon had opened its mouth and was sucking him towards the Danzo and the oncoming wind blades. He quickly launched a force push straight down its throat, causing it to choke. Now free of the suction, Naruto used a force push to propel him out of the way just as the attack shot past him. Naruto's lightsabers flashed through the darkness of the rain as he spun them while sprinting towards the summon, and with several quick strokes caused it to dispel. Without wasting time, Naruto flicked his wrist and sent Ten no Kage in a spinning arc that caught Danzo off guard and sliced him in half yet again. Naruto frowned as he re-caught his lightsaber, since Danzo had once again used Izanagi to escape death. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon projectile technique. Danzo created a huge dragon of water out of the falling rain and sent it straight at Naruto, who caught it through the force and redirected it back to him. Danzo ran through more hand seals and slammed both palms onto the ground. Doden. Doryuaheki. Earth release. Earth-style wall. A giant slab of rock emerged from the ground in time to block the water dragon that crashed harmlessly against it. Naruto smirked under the helmet as he used the force to topple the giant wall onto Danzo, but he just used Izanagi to escape again. I really need to get rid of all those Sharingans, Naruto muttered to himself before an idea occurred to him. I have to take out both his arm and left eye in one shot, since he could just use Izanagi to nullify the damage if I target one of them only. Suiden. Daibakufu no Jutsu. Great waterfall technique. The rain around Danzo began to collect together and rose several meters above his head before crashing back down towards Naruto like a waterfall. Naruto smirked as this was the chance to initiate his plan. He formed a cage bushin and had it take his place while he hid in the shadows of a nearby alley. The clone used the force to leap to safety on a lamppost before he raised his hand and force pulled Danzo towards itself. Danzo struggled to stop his flight but failed to do so. He started forming hand seals in midair before releasing a stream of wind that shifted his trajectory. The clone dashed towards him with force energy gathering around itself. Danzo started to perform hand seals and was focused on the clone. Naruto took the opportunity and burst out of the alleyway. He dashed towards Danzo with a rising slash that took off his right arm at the shoulder. Before Danzo could use Izanagi again, the clone shot forward with a burst of speed before using Henge to turn into a kunai. The now hanged clone soared towards Danzo and stabbed him right in the eye. Naruto used the kunai to pry out the Sharingan that was in the socket. Warning: torture scene, not for those with weak constitutions. Please skip to next line if you don't want to read. Game over, Danzo. Naruto growled menacingly as he crushed the eyeball with his gloved hand and incinerated each eye in the severed arm with a tap of Shinku no Kage's blade. Naruto then carefully cauterized the bleeding eye socket by pushing his lightsaber slightly into the hole, all the while smirking at Danzo's screams of pain. The watching ninjas all started to advance slightly so as to get a better look of what was happening. Hiruzen sighed as he listened to his ex-friend's cries. Don't worry, Danzo-chan, there's plenty more to come. Naruto chuckled darkly as he hauled Danzo up by the scruff of his shirt and slammed him into the wall of a building. He then had his clone gather 3 tantos from the ground before impaling him on the wall through his left palm and each foot. Danzo now hung in a crucified position on the wall. Hiruzen couldn't handle seeing him like this and was about to interfere when he suddenly found himself levitating. If you feel like taking his place, let me know. Well. Naruto snarled as the Hokage quickly shook his head and Naruto used the force to place him with the rest of the Konoha shinobi. Naruto turned back to Danzo and pointed both lightsabers at him. A quick and painless death is something you don't deserve. Prepare to know pain. Naruto held the glowing blade just above Danzo's skin on his left arm. He slowly tapped the skin continuously as jolts of pain shot through Danzo's arm, causing him to grit his teeth in pain. Naruto frowned at the lack of reaction and brushed the glowing blade along Danzo's forearm, effectively burning off the skin slowly and painfully. A small grunt of pain came from him. Naruto nodded silently in slight satisfaction. He switched off both lightsabers and clipped them to his belt before picking up a tanto off the ground. The rain was still beating down heavily as he turned back to Danzo again. At least with this I will get to see you bleed, Naruto said as if explaining his reason for getting the tanto. Anko, who was within the crowd, grinned as she heard that, causing the shinobi around her to take a step away in caution. Naruto pressed the blade into Danzo's shoulder and twisted it clockwise and counterclockwise. Blood ran out of the wound and stained Danzo's clothes red. Naruto left the tanto in there and picked up another one and stabbed it into the other shoulder and repeated the turning motion. You know, Danzo, I feel like a magician stabbing swords into his assistant inside the box. Except you aren't in the box and these swords aren't made of rubber. Naruto frowned again as Danzo had yet to emit anything other than a grunt or two of pain before an evil idea made him grin darkly under his helmet. Naruto walked up to Danzo whistling innocently before sending a force-enhanced armored boot right into his groin, causing Danzo to let out a high-pitched scream. The effect this had on the audience was multiple male shinobi fainting at the sound. These included Asuma, Kakashi, Ebisu and several others. Ooh, that was evil, Naru-kun, do it again. Kyuubi snickered inside his mind, causing Naruto to let out a dark laugh. I got a better idea. Naruto reignited Shinku no Kage, and pointed it at Danzo's damaged privates. He let a dark grin spread across his face yet again at Danzo's pale face. Naruto brushed the tip of the lightsaber against his groin, causing Danzo to scream out a stream of vulgarities. Naruto just moved it along the area, slowly burning the skin off Danzo's organs, and relished in the agonized screams being emitted from the man. Every remaining conscious man in the area winced and covered their privates in sympathy, even the Sandaime did so. Ha ha ha. Finally, the screams I have been waiting for. I just realized you won't be needing this anymore. Naruto swung his lightsaber and completely burned off Danzo's privates with an insane laugh that caused Kyuubi and Anko to get aroused. Danzo's throat was hoarse from screaming so loud continuously. The lightsaber hummed as Naruto swung it again and cut off the left arm this time. Naruto kept his lightsaber again before placing a hand on Danzo's right leg. How would you like to know how it feels like to lose all life within a limb? Seikatsu Heisui. Red lightning spread across the entirety of Danzo's right leg and it started to age rapidly. Naruto gave it a gentle flick and it crumbled into dust. Danzo had his mouth open in an oh of pain, but no sound came out since he had screamed himself hoarse already. Naruto repeated the same with the other leg. Danzo's body and head had dropped back onto the wet ground as Naruto stood over him. His eyes were dimming already. No 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 no. We can't have you dying on me yet. Naruto's gloved hand glowed a ghostly blue as he pushed healing force energy into Danzo, causing him to return to full alertness. Naruto stopped channeling healing energy and started channeling force lightning instead and watched in satisfaction as Danzo twitched as purple lightning arced across the surface of his body. Danzo was panting already as Naruto ignited both lightsabers now and stood over his body and started poking lightly at random points on his body. I've had my fun, now any last words? I regret nothing, because all I have done, I did for Konoha, Danzo panted out as Naruto positioned both lightsabers on both sides of his head. Yee and I'm Santa Claus. Naruto deadpanned as he liberated Danzo's head from his shoulders and used the force to lift the body and toss it high into the sky as the Urashisho Fuinjutsu, reverse 4 symbols sealing technique, activated and a giant black orb appeared in the air. And that's the end of that. Unfortunately it isn't Revan-san. Hiruzen coughed politely as he addressed the force user, who turned towards him. We still have the matter of Kushina's whereabouts to discuss. She is safe with me. Naruto replied simply. Where is that exactly? Hiruzen asked. For what reason do I have to tell you? Naruto answered with his own question. Kushina is a ninja of Konohagakure no Sato and as Hokage it is my responsibility to make sure of her safety. Hiruzen replied calmly, but that was the wrong thing to say. What? So where was your so-called responsibility when you searched the battlefield after the Kyuubi's rampage for the dead? Didn't her missing body ring any alarm bells in your old head? Well, tell me. Naruto's voice had taken on a demonic tinge again, causing the old Kage to sweat slightly. Why should I reveal any information to you? And who are you that you go so far just for the sake of Kushina? Hiruzen countered, causing Naruto to flinch back slightly. My identity is none of your concern and I would go this far for her because she is someone precious to me. Naruto replied in a softer tone due to the abrupt change in topic. As Sandaime Hokage of the village of Konohagakure no Sato, I cannot allow you to take one of our shinobi away. Hiruzen told him. Even if I am the only one who could possibly heal her? Naruto asked as he folded his arms across his chest. What do you mean by that? Hiruzen narrowed his eyes at the armored figure of Darth Revan. Exactly what I said and that I know you read within the file I threw at you. Danzo has been trying all forms of medical ninjutsu and normal medical means but he still didn't succeed in bringing her back to consciousness. What makes you think you could do it? Naruto pointed out bluntly, causing the old Hokage to flinch slightly. I promise you that no harm shall come to her and she will be fine in no time. Ninjas don't honor their promises. Hiruzen glared at him. Well, I'm not a ninja, am I? Naruto chuckled as he force leapt away and the Konoha shinobi started to crowd their leader. Hokage-sama, should we pursue him? Ebisu asked as he adjusted his shades. We can't let him get away with Minato-sensei's wife. Kakashi shouted and was about to give chase when Hiruzen placed an aged hand on his shoulder. Let him leave, Kakashi, he told the ex-ANBU captain. But Hokage-sama, he has Kushina. Kakashi pleaded with the Hokage, who looked at him apologetically. I know Kakashi, but what can you really do against a guy who waltzed into our village and practically took down our entire ninja force en route by himself? The Sandaime sighed as he saw the defeated look in Kakashi's exposed eye. Don't worry about it too much. If Revan-san was doing all that for Kushina in the first place, what makes you think he will hurt her? I guess you're right, Hokage-sama. If you need me for anything, you know where to find me. Kakashi drawled in his laid-back voice once again before vanishing in a shunshin body flicker. Unknown to the crowd, there was actually 2 people who had sighed in relief when they heard the Hokage give the order to not pursue Darth Revan. I'm glad that Hokage-sama didn't give the order to pursue Naru-kun. I can't believe that Danzo Tem was holding Kushina-chan this entire time. Too bad Naru-kun got to him first. I would have liked a turn at torturing that old bastard, and how dare he desecrate my clan's dead like that. At least Naru-kun gave him what he deserved. Didn't know Naru-kun had such a sadistic side to him. Mikoto thought since she had recognized the power maelstrom as Naruto's immediately and had went to find him. I don't know why, but I feel relieved that Naruto-kun was able to escape without interference. After witnessing his power firsthand, I don't think anyone can stand against him. And those energy blades that he wielded were able to slice through everything like a hot knife through butter. They even cauterize the area they pass over. Yugo drooled mentally at the prospect of handling such an elegant and deadly weapon. And further unknown to everybody else, since they were too engrossed in the fight, a certain raven-haired, raven-eyed young boy had witnessed the entire scene as well with an awestruck expression. Who was that armored shinobi? I heard them refer to him as Darth Revan. I can't believe he just took on the entire Konoha ninja force and walked away almost untouched. I doubt even Itachi could do that. I must find him and ask him how did he manage to obtain such power. Sasuke thought as he made his way out of the hiding spot and back home. And even further yet unknown, since he was an expert spy, a plant-like maw emerged from the trunk of a tree and spilled open to reveal a face that was half white and half black with yellow eyes. Madara-sama won't be happy to hear about